I want to bring in the president of the National Committee on U.S. China Relations, Steve Orlins. He joins us now from Beijing. And Steve, we just had on the senior advisor to the White House, Valerie Jarrett. And, she was, as you might expect, not forthcoming and giving too much details about what the White House would want to happen at this G20 meeting. She's leaving up to Treasury Secretary Tim Geithner. What is going to be the success? What does he have to bring home from this meeting?
Well, unfortunately, I think he's going to the political system in the United States wants him to bring home real concessions from the Chinese, but the fact that he'll be asking for them publicly actually cuts against getting those kinds of concessions. The public pressure that we feel we have to put on the Chinese actually is counterproductive in terms of getting a revaluation of the yuan. I mean, when I was on your program last, I think I told your listeners to go long the RMB, and if they went long in the 4 weeks since I was last on, it's appreciated about 1%.
Right. Since
they refixed their exchange rate, since they changed the mechanism for it, it's increased about 2.6%, which would mean on an annual basis, that was about 4 months ago, it would be up about 7.8%, which is pretty good, and I think something we should be satisfied with. The pressure that we're bringing publicly forces the Chinese, I think, to take a position of we can't give in to U.S. pressure, even though it may be in our interest to revalue the yuan.
Okay, so then in your view, Steve, that the more pressure we apply to China, then does that mean the exchange rate, the less the exchange rate is going to move?
I think it makes it more difficult for them to move the exchange rate. I mean, just imagine the meeting that you're having. You've got the Ministry of Commerce who's kind of representing the exporters and saying, don't revalue. You've got the People's Bank of China, the monetary authority, that's saying you should revalue. We don't have sufficient monetary tools to deal with the upcoming inflation, the increasing inflation, without revaluing. So we need to appreciate the RMB. Then you have the Ministry of Foreign Affairs who's sitting there saying, if the Americans are reasonably quiet, they say, okay, we should move ahead with this.
Right.
If they're making a lot of noise, they're saying, well, we can't be seen as weak and giving in to U.S. pressure.
Okay, well, this is all on the public stage, though. But, Steve, what do you think is happening behind the scenes? Is there something at all that may be ironed out between the two countries, behind the scenes?
I think that quietly we're having a discussion with them saying we understand, we need for our own domestic political purposes, the administration needs to be seen as pressuring the Chinese. We understand that they need to do it in their time and in their way, and that they are actually doing it. Again, what I said before, a 7.8% annual rate, if it continues for 3 years, would put them at about a 22% revaluation by
which actually
3 years from now,
right?
Which I think is pretty good.
And you and several others, which who we interviewed, said, look, 20 to 30% revaluation is probably pretty appropriate for the Chinese yuan. Okay, Steve, we've got to leave it there.